In the Avatar The Last Airbender community, it has been commonplace to talk about the possibility of Azula being redeemed, but what exactly would that look like? Is it even possible? Let's investigate. There are two prevalent views of Azula in the community. One is that she is an unrepentant monster, and even though her downfall is tragic considering her age and considering her delusions about being able to control those around her with fear shatter like broken glass, she never could have been good. The other view is that she is entirely the product of her environment. True, she's not perfect, but if it wasn't for her mother's apathy toward her and her father's intent to transform her into a child soldier, she would not have become the callous and manipulative person she is by the events of Avatar. I can't say I particularly agree with either of these views. I find them both reductionist and logically spurious. Azula, even without the influence of her abusive, tyrannical father, would not have been a normal kid. Even in the flashbacks we see of her as a young child in Zuko alone, she proves herself to be a callous manipulator. The idea that Ursa is to blame for her condition is outright silly. While Zuko may indeed have an over-idealized view of his mother, understandable considering that she was the only member of his family that treated him with tenderness and respect. I've seen too many people taking scenes in Zuko alone out of context in order to castigate Ursa. They say she didn't give Azula enough of a chance, but the weariness on her face suggests she knows she has given Azula far too many chances. When Ursa does criticize Azula, it is not for childish mistakes, but for cruel and uncaring manipulation. Azula demonstrates no respect for her Uncle Iroh or her grandfather, Azulon, and she yearns for her cousin Lu Ten to die so that her father, Ozai, can take the throne. There is no noticeable difference in behavior between how she acts as a child and how she acts as a teenager. Now, this does not mean the person she becomes by the events of Avatar The Last Airbender has nothing to do with her father's influence. Because of her natural skill at firebending, Ozai consistently chooses her over Zuko. Ozai views compassion and empathy as weaknesses. The only ideal he worships is that of power. His disdain toward Zuko is not only because Zuko is not as much of a firebending prodigy as Azula is. No, he might not like that, but he could forgive that. What he cannot forgive is how Zuko embodies a lot of the values he considers weaknesses. He's a tender, good-hearted person who does not want to enforce his will on others. He wants the best for others, and he cares what they think. Azula does not. This constant favoritism leads to Zuko's banishment. Azula would never prioritize the rights and lives of ordinary soldiers over military decorum, but even if she had, Ozai would have not banished her like he banished Zuko. Zuko, despite what he thinks, was not banished because of that one action. That one action gave his father an excuse to banish him. Zuko spends 3 years chasing the Avatar as he desperately tries to get back in his father's good graces. But as he transcends the morality and ethos imprinted in him as a child, he accepts that his banishment was a positive, as it led to his journey of growth and self-possession and self-fulfillment. Azula, however, stayed in Ozai's clutches and continued to tie her self-worth to her ability to control those around her. Perfection is paramount. Honest human connection is too messy, too unreliable. She relies on fear, not love, but fear is not as easy to induce as she starts off believing. Contrary to what she claims, her friends do indeed love her as much as they fear her. Or at least they like her. May does not join Azula out of fear. Azula does not have to coerce her. Rather, May likes Azula and respects Azula and would rather join Azula's quest than waste time being the quiet child of her politician father. Because fear is not what binds her to Azula, not really, she leaves when Azula starts threatening Zuko. The case of Ty Lee is a little different, because Azula does control Ty Lee with fear. If it wasn't for fear, Ty Lee never would have joined the quest to defeat the Avatar. Nonetheless, her friendship with May proves stronger than that fear. When they both turn against Azula, Azula is lost. She wins that battle by capturing them and throwing them in prison, but she loses her soul. Her belief system has shattered into a million pieces, and she doesn't have the mental acuity or the psychological fortitude to change her belief system, so she just collapses in on herself. She doesn't know how to deal with the fact that she cannot control others using fear, so she breaks down. This leads to the somber, ritualistic showdown that is the final Agni Kai, and it later leads to her ultimate defeat. I don't blame Iroh for dismissing her by saying she's crazy and she needs to go down. That would be my reaction if I were in his place, especially if she had almost killed me. But that's not the attitude the show takes to her. Or at least it's not the show's complete attitude to her. Zuko does not hate her, and she, interestingly enough, does not entirely hate Zuko. A redemption narrative is not impossible, but it would have to prominently involve Zuko. Now, to be clear, he does not need this. His journey is complete already, though yes, helping Azula would allow him to play the same role Iroh played for him, bringing that all full circle. It needs to be noted that Zuko has already played that role multiple times during the Zuko field trip arc. Especially during the Katara-focused episode, The Southern Raiders. He takes the same attitude toward her in that episode that Iroh takes toward him. Instead of moralizing to her, as Aang does, he empathizes with the darkness inside her, and believes that she needs to experience the mercurial thrill of having what she wanted in order for her to realize that it does not bring her the happiness and satisfaction and catharsis that she thought it would. This is exactly what happens. Katara does not kill her mother's murderer, and instead she conquers the darkness inside herself. No, helping Azula would be solely for her benefit. No one should have to deal with Azula's callousness and lack of empathy, but Zuko would choose to deal with it. If and only if he believed there is a chance to lead her to the light, to lead her to redemption. Azula is dismissive toward him, sure, but not more so than she is to others. While she has nothing but contempt for Iroh, she treats Zuko less bitterly than does their father. Think of her appeal to him at the end of Season 2, when she's trying to convince him to join her side. She says that although Zuko may be many things, he is not a traitor, and more importantly, she gives him time to consider his decision. She does not pressure him, instead letting her words sit with him. letting him consider those words and consider what he really wants to do. This could be nothing more than course correction after her over-aggressive approach to him at the beginning of the season fails, but it nonetheless demonstrates more respect toward him than their father demonstrates. Ozai's attitude toward him is basically, "Bow to me, you insipid weakling!" The siblings even share a profound scene at the end of The Beach, episode 305, the episode that explains who Azula is as a character. This is frequently cited as one of the funniest episodes in all of Avatar, and with scenes like Azula declaring to a defeated beach volleyball team that they will never rise from the ashes of their shame and humiliation, it's not hard to see why. But that comedy masks Azula's alienation from societal mores. Even when she wants to connect, she can't. And despite her megalomania and self-aggrandizing arrogance, she longs for that connection. A lesser show would have played her alienation as a joke. Avatar: The Last Airbender is mature enough to realize that it, yes, is extremely funny, but it's extremely sad and heartbreaking too. Azula bonds with Zuko over the melancholy of their family's beach house, now just a somber reminder of what was. I'm not saying Azula does not believe in her own pompous myth-making, but when she lets her guard down and stops trying to force others to think of her as this invincible, tactical machine, she proves herself vulnerable and at least open to change. If Zuko is to help her change for the better, he needs to take advantage of moments like this. If Azula has to plead for forgiveness in order to be accepted by Team Avatar like Zuko does in episode 312, that wouldn't work. She could not bring herself to do that. But if it is just the two of them, siblings contemplating their broken life, Zuko might be able to comfort her, and by comforting her, he might be able to get through to her. She'll say that she wants him to go away, but she really doesn't. And gradually, she might accept that love is more reliable than fear. That Zuko is comforting her despite everything she has done to him proves that. This does not necessarily mean she will embark on the road to redemption, especially as she is more prideful than Zuko ever was. But it is her only real chance at redemption. Without Zuko, I believe that the idea of her being redeemed is just fancy. He has to be there. He has to try to help her. So thank you all for watching. If you liked what you saw today, don't forget to like and comment and subscribe. Donate to my Patreon if you can and you want to see more videos like this. Keep watching Avatar: The Last Airbender. It is a brilliant, hilarious, poignant show that I am so glad is finally getting all the attention it deserves. I love how it treats even Azula like a real human being. It understands all these people. It understands what they want and what they secretly need, even if they don't want to admit those needs to themselves. So anyway, tune in soon for my next analysis. It will be coming soon. Thank you all again. Adios, comrades.